Hey, we're going to talk about a few things here today, starting off with new stimmy money. What does this mean? It means stimulus money. You might get some stimulus money because we have a new promise by Vice President Kamala Harris, and she's saying that she wants to implement a $25,000 grant towards a down payment if you're going to be buying real estate sometime during her presidency, if she wins, that is. Now, I think this is a very bold campaign move. I don't know if she's going to win. I don't know if she's going to follow through with this kind of promise. But this suggestion, to me, is a little interesting. Now, first of all, what are you thinking is going to happen if she wins and she does this and she gives $25,000 for free as down payment assistance? What do you think is going to happen? Where's this money going to come from? Can you please let me know in the comments? I always appreciate your support, and commenting is one of the best ways to support the channel. Now, real quick, my name is Maciek Zaremba. I'm a real estate agent in Sarasota, Florida. Right now, I'm at Bird Key Park, just walking around. Downtown is right there, right over the bridge, and I'm always talking about stuff going on in real estate. So let's get back to a few topics here. First one being $25,000. Now, I don't think that this is going to come through. Whether or not she wins, I don't think anyone's going to get a $25,000 grant towards a down payment, because a couple of things are going to get affected in a negative way. First is valuations of homes are artificially going to increase, and when that $25,000 stimulus goes away, it's going to hit the pricing a little harder than on the downside, right? It's going to come down harder than it went up. So if it doesn't happen, then it's just going to be regular supply and demand with no exterior incentive of free money coming in. Now, let's take a look at what if it does happen. So if we get $25,000, I'm pretty sure we're going to have an increase in the number of closings. And that's because a lot of people who are on the fence, on the sidelines, or maybe just not even in the market because they don't have the money, they don't have the down payment money to pay. I'm pretty sure that right there is going to cause people to pull the trigger. Now, what hasn't been discussed is, can this money be used towards paying your buyer's agent? Because if you don't know, we've had a big rule change in the MLS and in general how we talk to sellers, that sellers are now not going to be necessarily paying the buyer's agents their commission. And we'll see how this all plays out. Today is the 20th of August, and this rule just passed on the 17th, 3 days ago. And as of right now, I haven't seen any changes. But back to this $25,000, and can it be used to pay a buyer's agent? We don't know. Right now, we're just getting the first seed being dropped, talking about that she's going to implement a $25,000 down payment grant to anyone who wants to go and buy a property. Personally, I don't like it, but what do you think? Now, let's move on because we have to talk a little bit about some predictions from Redfin. You know, Redfin has a lot of good things about it. Now, I'm not the biggest fan of their models, but I do love the research that they do because they have the capability to spend money and hire people to really do a lot of research for us. So let me tell you what their latest predictions are. This is, I think, important if whether you're a buyer or a seller, or might be a buyer or a seller, or anyone you know is going to be one. So let's talk about this. First of all, they're saying that interest rates are going to drop by the end of this year. But this isn't like a prediction. This is like what everyone's been talking about. In fact, the markets have already adjusted the interest rate that you can get because the markets are currently pricing in a 100% probability of a 0.25, that's a 25 basis point, 0.25% rate cut in September. Now that's like a month away, right? And we are expecting this to happen. If it doesn't happen, happen. I'm pretty sure we're going to have big changes in the stock market over a couple days, and also we're going to have a lot of interest rates go up, because here's how it works. When we are 100% certain that there's going to be an interest rate cut without being promised, which is exactly where we're at right now, then what the banks do is they get a little bit ahead of themselves and they say, hey, listen, if we're going to have a rate cut in 30 days, then we might as well lock in rates with this new lower interest rate and try to gain the business when we are being shopped by shoppers. And, they're comparing apples to apples with other banks. So they drop the rate now, and they're expecting all of this to go down, all of the interest rates to go down at least one time this year. In fact, they're actually pricing in about a 60% probability of a second rate cut in November. But we'll talk about that later. So obviously Redfin's prediction that interest rates are going to go down is pretty much like known by everybody, and this is what everybody is predicting. Nothing new here. Now they go on to say that interest rates have actually doubled since the beginning of 2022, and that's true. It's just crazy how much they've increased our interest rates. So therefore the affordability component is really, really suffering. It's really hard to afford a home in the United States. Now, what they're saying though is that we're going to have lower rates, but I don't think, and you tell me what you think, please, I don't think this is going to cause crazy amounts of buyers because of this, effect that the banks do, where they come in and they lower the rates when at the moment that we're expecting a rate cut. So we are expecting it in 30 days, so they cut it right now. And I don't think there's going to be all these new people when they actually do cut it. That's all these new buyers coming out. I think it's going to be, right now is we're getting a little, peak of what's happening. And we might have another peak if we get some new policies into place, or maybe when we get a new president. I don't know. I do know that the presidential race is going strong, and I know there's some fierce competition between Harris and Trump, and we'll see how it all plays out, because they each have some pretty good promises of what they're going to be able to help us with. And if you're expecting interest rates to keep dropping and dropping and dropping to pandemic level lows, well, that means it's about 3%. Don't hold your breath, because you're not going to survive. It's not going to happen. Okay, nobody thinks this can happen. The reason why we had rates go that low in the first place is to stimulate the economy, because we were going through a pandemic where there's going to be a lockdown, and the government knew that there's going to be major economic repercussions if they don't do something. So that's what they chose to do, is just cut the rates, and they did that for a couple of years. It definitely worked. The economy went crazy. Real estate went crazy. Prices of real estate went crazy. The real estate refinances were through the roof at record highs ever recorded. Okay, so now what can they do this time around? Well, if they go to 3%, then it's not gonna stir up the same thing as it did last time, because most of the people have already refinanced and locked in their loan. But for the last 2 years, we have had, interest rates locking in at about, mortgages locking in at about a 7% interest rate. So there's lots of people that will refinance, and that's going to be good for them. And that's going to send prices up higher, which is an inflation component. That means that the housing inflation is going to stay high, which means that rents will stay high, and overall home affordability will not be any better. We won't be closer to homes being affordable. But a 0.25% rate cut might help a little bit, and a 0.5% rate cut might help a little bit. Now, it's not going to happen where we're going to have this 3% anyway, so I'm not sure why we're talking about it. We're expecting rates to hit about 5.5% within a year or 2 years. Okay, that's really the reasonable expectation, which is a great interest rate, by the way. If you look at the historical norms, it's a great interest rate to lock in and buy a home. Now, another thing that Redfin is talking about is actually the unlocking of inventory. So let me explain what they mean by this. This is an interesting topic, and I do think this is going to happen if we hit 5.5% rates. So as you know, a lot of people are locked into their home right now. They're locked because they bought the home with a mortgage of 3%, 3.5%, 3.25%, whatever that low rate was. and the valuation of the home has gone up significantly. I'm in this position myself, not that I'm trying to move, but I have a 3.25% interest rate on a home that is almost doubled in value. Compared to my mortgage, it's way more than twice the amount. I have a lot of equity. So what I'm going through right now is what most people are going through, is that they're locked in at this low interest rate with a very, very low payment. And in order for me to buy a home and move, well, that means that I would need to lock myself in to a high interest rate right now, being about 6.75%. Well, if we hit 5.5%, a lot of people might actually make that move. But right now they're locked in. They like their 3.5%, their 3%, even 4%, right? They like that rate, and they cannot buy anything that is comparable for anywhere close to the same monthly payment. They're going to pay so much more for just the same home, right? Literally, if I sell my house and I buy a house down the street that is identical layout, identical size, identical everything, and I take my entire profit and I put it as a down payment, and I have zero real estate commissions because I'm a realtor, and zero taxes because I live in the state of Florida, and I've lived here for over 2 years in the same home, so I have zero capital gains tax. Actually, that's not state of Florida, that's an IRS thing. Well, even if I do all of that, my payment is going to skyrocket, probably close to double, because the value of the home and the interest rate is going to be like the same. I'll sell it for this price, I'll buy it for this price, same price, and I'm going to pay a lot more because I'm trading my 3.25% rate for, let's just say, a 6.75% rate. But if they do drop to 5.5, that is the magic number. When they do polling, a lot of people are talking about that's the magic number. They would be willing to unlock themselves. And unlocking yourself from the loan is a nice thing, and it has a lot of benefits, but no one's going to do it if their trade-off is a 6.75 or 7% interest rate. Okay, what people are going to do is they're going to take a little hit, but not a double hit, right? They're not going to do that. And I've talked to many clients who are in this exact position. In fact, I have a whole list of people that are not willing to sell right now, and they will be willing to sell as soon as rates drop to about 5.5, 6%. Well, great to know. And what will that do, generally speaking, is at first, it will really increase the inventory of homes for sale. We still have a shortage of inventory, even in Sarasota and Manatee counties where I live. We have a condo surplus because Florida is going through a condo crisis right now, but and that's in a buyer's market, right? But the single family homes of both counties are still showing signs of being in a seller's market. Now, do sellers get to decide everything? No, it's not like you're getting multiple offers and over asking prices on every listing that hits the market. That's not at all the case. But we are getting offers, we are getting showings, we are getting sales. The days on market is like 60 days or so, which is a very short time. So what do you think is going to happen if we drop our interest rates to 4%? What do you think is going to happen? What do you think is going to happen if it drops to 5.5? Please leave a comment below. I always appreciate your support.